Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the new Gems of War faction of the Labyrinth, which was just added in yesterday, as well as a bunch of various teams for it and various strategies. So the Labyrinth is associated to Wild Plains and comes in with a green-red banner, and a pretty weird one at that. As far as what it's associated to, it is associated to Wild Plains. It actually ended up bringing in 2 attacks, directly and indirectly. One of them ended up coming from Wild Plains, where you can now get it to 20 stars, and even if you can't get it to 20 stars, makes it easier to get to 10 stars, both of which will give you 1 whole additional attack. But additionally, if you have super high renown, it also allows you to reach 64,000 renown, which ends up also being 1 whole additional attack. So a lot of additional attack ended up coming in through this faction. One pretty noteworthy thing to kind of mention about this faction is it has a really weird banner. So for whatever reason, it is currently a +2/+2. I assume this is not intended, because that is very strange if so. But yeah, it's currently a +2 green, +2 red, and yes, it does indeed function as a +2 green, +2 red, at least currently, until they probably fix it. It's probably meant to be a +2 green, +1 red, -1 purple, but as it currently stands, it is still functioning as a +2/+2, so use it while you can. It'll probably be fixed in a few days or less, but for this current moment in time, it is more powerful than pretty much any banner in the game, since it has a total positive of 3, you know, if you subtract a little minus on it, but of course, technically a 2/2, so really strong overall. So yeah, nice banner for now. That's probably not staying like that, but very strong nonetheless. Anyways, as far as our format over here, it's pretty straightforward. Well, kind of not really. It's a really like weird maze kind of thing. Obviously, that's the whole point of the Labyrinth thing. Anyways, once you get to this room, it'll unlock the final. So generally what you're going to want to do is go for this tier 1, which you have to do anyways. Go for tier 5, go for tier 4, and then you go straight to the final if you're doing a rush method. If you're going for overall best loot, you want to save the 2 treasure rooms for last. This room all the way over to the right over here, and this one right up over here will always be a treasure room, and you're going to want to save those for last unless you're doing it based on multiplier order. Basically, if you're doing it based on treasure order, you're going to want to go for the 1, the 5, the 4. You then want to go all the way over to this 2. For whatever reason, this 2 allows you to go to take that 3 in the corner. Then you want to take this other 2, and then you take these 2 treasure rooms based on which one is higher. So you then, in this case, take this tier 4 into that tier 2, and then you go for the final battle. But basically, you just want to go down over here, get out all the other rooms that aren't treasure rooms, and then go do your higher treasure rooms into your lower treasure room is essentially what you want to go do for your overall loot there. As far as the weapon that this place ends up coming with, it's actually not too bad. Of course, I believe it's about 500 gems to end up getting it from the event, as it usually is. But as far as the weapon, it's kind of like a weaker version of rope dart, like way weaker than rope dart, but still has movement to the enemy nonetheless. So it explodes either row or column, which does have a small extra turn chance. It's a little bit unfortunate that it's either or, because that will make it a little bit consistent as to which one I'll end up doing. Because it can, if you're trying to get it for like a row alignment, it could end up doing column and vice versa. So a little bit annoying in that regard, but it'll still give you the same amount of mana regardless, just maybe a slightly different amount. But anyways, it does damage to the first enemy and then jumbles the enemy team. So this could be pretty good for disorienting the entire enemy team if you just want them to be in a different format. It's not as consistent as something like a rope dart where you could just bring it all the way to the front and be good to go, but it's still a weapon for doing that nonetheless. So if you are missing a rope dart, it is worth considering getting just to have for that purpose. Plus you probably already would have gotten it through some amount through this event regardless. Anyways, as far as teams associated to this place, there are quite a few that you can end up using. We're just going to be going over a few of them. So as far as the main one I personally have been using, the double Tesla, the Mountain Crusher or Scale Shield into double Tesla Holy Saint Asher. The Holy Saint Asher gives all humans 50%, and then you just run the Teslas to have their really high armor boost ratio, and you just tear apart absolutely everything. Personally, I run this with Corsair Hero Class to give Tesla more blue, but if you find you're dying too much, you could replace that out for Sentinel Hero Class or for Titan Hero Class, or really for any tanky Hero Class that can barrier on brown. But Corsair does make it go a little bit quicker if you can survive. If you're looking for something ultra cheap, you can of course go the standard or Scale Shield into Rowan. If you don't happen to have a Mirage Queen fully upgraded, you can go for double Leprechaun, which was available the other week. So most people have probably gotten it by now, since it was an event key literally last week. So hopefully you've picked up a Leprechaun or 2 by then. But yeah, going a Leprechaun or 2 with this is all you'd have to do. Just replace out the Mirage Queen for a Leprechaun. Mirage Queen, if you do end up getting, is from Sunken Fleet. If you throw some Chaos Shards in there, it gives half mana start to Rowan, and then you just get a really quick kill. Rowan, she boosts based on armor, and you just use her Scale Shield into your Rowan, or Scale Shield to get from 250 wins on Sentinel Hero Class, which you could theoretically also use as your hero class, but you generally want to go a half mana start one in order to get the the armor a little bit quicker to Rowan and just kill everything with Rowan. Rowan build is a little bit riskier to be using for this place. The restriction is, of course, green-red, similar to the banner as they always are. However, of course, due to the jumbling mechanic that it has, where they can kind of move your team all around, it can be a little bit annoying trying to get away with this, just because they will end up, of course, disorienting your team possibly on the very first battle. And if your Rowan gets moved to something like first slot, that is obviously not going to be too good. However, it can still run the entire way if you need a nice cheap option for it. And just kind of some mid-range thing based on some things we also had the other week, figured we show. Yagwe Queen of Tanya works here, so if you happen to pick up a Yagwe, regardless, Child of Summer into Queen of Tanya, it is a green-red restriction, so you are completely capable of doing it. You can do it with Flamer. If you don't have Flamer, you can run Arskia Shield, and you basically just run with a bunch of really heavy full AoE damage. Of course, this does eventually fall off as it doesn't have really any kind of method to upscale with. However, it's nice for the earlier battles and would probably wipe through them pretty quick. And if you're just buying up to like the weapon or something, this should go pretty much all the way up to that point, because I believe that's about how far the sigils go for the weapon, maybe a little bit further than that if you're just doing the basic like 500 gems or so and not going for pure faction. However, if you are going for pure faction, as far as pure faction is concerned, you're probably going to want to go Horned Guardian into double Minotaur into King Minos. The Horned Guardian, the main purpose of this is he tanks. He has 50% scar reduction. He has barrier on cast, and he also gains a little bit of armor. And on top of that, you also get to knock back a random enemy. However, you're mostly doing it for the armor, barrier, and high score reduction. The Mekataro will actually be your main damage source. Not only does he have some pretty decent damage, keep in mind it is only splash damage, whereas the other one, or sorry, light splash damage, whereas the other one does have heavy splash damage. However, you're mostly focusing your damage onto whatever you target, because he ends up boosting by his armor, and he has a 3-to-1 based on his armor, and of course, based on Delve stats, it's going to be quite a bit higher how much damage you can end up actually getting out of it, and it ends up boost ratio pretty well. On top of that, it also has 3 independent 30% chances that it'll end up silencing each enemy that ends up hitting. So assuming you're hitting 3 with your ability, each one of those, or everything that gets hit by his ability, has an independent 30% chance that it ends up getting silenced. Kind of like Parrot in that regard, except much better at doing damage. This can theoretically silence 3 of them, 2 of them, 1 of them, or 0 of them if you get really unlucky. Might be a little bit inconsistent. However, that's the point of having 2, is ideally you want to go and silence out the entire enemy team. These things don't really have immune to silence, and by not having immune to silence, I mean literally none. So you don't really have to worry about that. So as soon as you get those silences down, you're pretty much good to go. King Minos, he does have heavy splash, which is pretty nice. You can also use it to stun. I don't feel like stun's going to do too much unless you kind of want to stun the tank early. He also gets to jumble up the enemy team, which could be okay just to kind of remove the tank out of the way. But overall, you're using him primarily for his half mana start. His half mana start will give Tauruses their half mana, which includes this entire team. One kind of interesting about this bonus is you may notice this actually already exists within the game. The Shaman Hero class is the exact same thing with a 50% mana start. So this is actually the first time where a 50% has 2 of them now. For the first time ever. It is for Tauruses now. There's one off of Shaman, and of course there's no one off of King Minos. So both of them have that as a option for it. But yeah, kind of weird that there's now 2. I kind of hope a lot of things start getting 2. However, we still are missing 1 from so many typings within the game. But I don't know, we'll have to see what they end up doing with it over time. But yeah, it's a little bit weird with how they have that set up. But anyways, yeah, it should be pretty straightforward. Pure faction, not the easiest, not the hardest. You don't have resummon or anything, but you have a pretty good tank. You have okay damage, and you have a disable off of silence, so you should pretty much be fine. And worst comes to worst, you could jumble them and just kind of disorients their team, and hopefully they won't be able to do as good. You can kind of silence them based on that, block their mana, and a bunch of shenanigans like that. But overall, should be pretty straightforward. But anyways, that is pretty much everything with the new faction. Overall, pretty average faction. Troops not really going to have too much implementation outside of the event, mostly because Shaman kind of already does what the Legend does, and generally the Legend is the main thing that ends up coming in with any faction. The pet is pretty cute, though. I didn't think I showed the pet yet, but if you go into the thing, if you get 2,000 Renown or higher, you do end up getting a little pet, and of course if you're going for your pure faction, you'll end up getting it fully max. But a pretty adorable little T-Rex thing. I'm not sure if we even had a T-Rex pet yet, but we do now. But anyways, guys, if you still have any other questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below. All teams mentioned in this video will be in the description if you want to go and copy and paste them. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend finishing out this event. Of course, it goes for the entire weekend as it normally does. The rest of today, all of tomorrow, and goes all the way till Monday reset time. So you have all the way until then in order to go and complete out this event. And even if you don't end up completing it out completely during the event, of course, you still have your 3 daily delves that you can do at any point in order to press forward on the event as well. You just won't really have access to potion effects, which of course makes doing pure faction and stuff like that a little bit easier. But anyways, that'll wrap it up for now. Hope you all enjoy your weekend. Best of luck with the event, and I will catch you all later. Goodbye, everyone, and thank you for watching.